Hello and welcome to another sewing tutorial. Today I'll be showing you how to make these connected sleeves and also the detached sleeves from this pattern. In this video I'll be showing how to make the connected sleeves, but a very similar process applies for the detached sleeves. So you're going to start by cutting out your pattern piece. For two sleeves you're going to want two pieces that look like this. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my machine settings. This could vary on yours, but this is what I like to use. So on my width, I like to set it to a 4, and on my length, I like to set it to a 2. Starting at the wrist with the right side facing down, we're going to fold up the hem by 8mm to a centimetre. I don't measure this distance, I just do it by eye, but if you feel more comfortable measuring this, then do that. Also, you can pin this if that makes it easier for you. I am sewing this with a zigzag stitch with a width of about 4.5 and a length of about 3. Sew all the way along and make sure you back tack at the beginning and the end. And here's what this should look like with the wrist hem done. Now we're going to add elastic around the top part of the sleeve. I'm using a 6mm elastic and my machine settings are a length of 4 and a width of 3. To elasticate this area, you want to gently pull on the elastic so that it gathers slightly behind you as you sew. And you want to be sewing through the middle of the elastic. And now we're going to turn it over and top stitch. With the right side of the fabric facing up, you're going to turn the elastic under once. When top stitching, I like to use a width of 4 or 5. As you sew, you're gently going to stretch the fabric so it sits flat. Here you can see me pulling the fabric with my left hand away from the elastic so that it is sitting taut against the edge. And with my right hand, I'm guiding the back end of the elastic through the presser feet so that it's going through straight. Always back tack at the beginning and the end. And now you should have something that looks like this, with the top elasticated and the bottom hemmed. Now this next part is optional, but if you're dazzling your sleeve, you're going to want to do that first before you sew up the side seam. I'm going to be using these clips to hold it down to the dazzle board. Lay your sleeve down and you're going to stretch it until it sits flat, pegging the edges to hold it in place. The products that I'm using here can be found on my website, but I'll also link them in the description below. Now I'm just going to make a few slight adjustments till I've got it sitting flat how I want it, and then you're ready to dazzle. Now I've added all of the stones that I want to, and be sure when you're dazzling to leave yourself some room in your seam allowance for when you're sewing this up later. I like to leave about an inch. Okay, now we'll need some pins, and we're going to fold this in half, right sides together, and we're just going to pin the top and the bottom so that it holds it in place when you go to sew it. You can also pin all the way along this seam if you want to. Now we're going to sew up this seam. I'm using a straight stitch and I'm starting at the bottom. I find it easier to start at the bottom because there's no bulky elastic in this area compared to the top. I'm sewing this the same way that I sew all of my seams, with a straight stitch with a short length of 2 out of 5 on my machine, and as I sew I slightly stretch the fabric. Now we're going to turn it right side out. Along your inside seam, you're going to have an area that hasn't been rhinestoned that allowed you to sew up your seam. You're going to want to fix this before you continue with your sleeves. So now we're going to attach the sleeves to the underarm part of your costume. I have pinned the sleeve in place with both of the right sides facing up. And here I am zigzag stitching this in place. And there you have your final sleeve attached to your costume. To create the detached sleeve version of this pattern, it is a very similar process. You're just going to omit a few of the steps. Happy sewing, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below.